Discover the incredible truth. Transform your life by embracing your unique dreams today. Kelly stood behind the counter of the quaint diner, flipping pancakes as the morning sun poured through the windows. Each sizzle on the griddle felt like a reminder of the dreams that simmered beneath the surface, dreams of teaching, of igniting curiosity in young minds. Yet, like the dust gathering in the corners of the diner, her aspirations were often neglected. Her mother's voice haunted her thoughts. Focus on stability, Kelly. Teaching? It's a risky business. The weight of her family's expectations pressed down on her. A daily reminder that following dreams seemed fraught with danger and uncertainty. She glanced at the clock, its ticking a rhythmic reminder of her responsibilities, 2 small children awaiting her return, a household to manage, and bills stacking up like plates needing washing. The permanence of her routine wrapped around her like chains, and every flip of the pancake brought a moment of fleeting joy, quickly suffocated by the suffocating reality. How could she aspire to be more than just a waitress when each day was a cruel reminder of what she wasn't? Just then, an unexpected call diverted her thoughts. An inheritance, a rundown family property. She dismissed the thought of it being anything more than a burden, until her heart raced at the mention of it housing an old community library. Memories of her childhood in that library flashed before her, a sanctuary of books, a space that smelled of possibilities. Shadows of neglect seemed to mirror her own fears as she stepped inside, dust motes swirling like her swirling thoughts. Could this place be the key to everything she had ever wanted? The idea sparked a flicker of hope, but only ignited her anxiety. As she inspected the peeling wallpaper and empty shelves, self-doubt choked her conviction. If she couldn't manage her own life, how could she manage the resurrection of this space that meant so much? The laughter of her children echoed in her mind, a stark reminder of her dual role. Just a waitress, sure, but also a mother who desperately wanted to expand her own world and theirs. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The path to revitalize the library was fraught with obstacles. Local authorities brushed her off, perceiving the library as an outdated concept. And here she was, the little waitress with the audacity to have visions. Each rejection felt personal. As her determination grew, so did the tension with her mother. Why can't you just focus on what's realistic? Begged her mother's worried brows each time she dared to express her dreams. How could she dare to rise from what she had always been, only to face the scrutiny of her loved ones? As the walls of the library closed in on her, she contemplated a town meeting to rally support. But what if they scoffed? What could she, a simple waitress, really change? The weight of anticipation, hope, and dread twisted her stomach into knots. She inhaled deeply, reminding herself that her children deserved a mother unafraid to chase dreams. Could her passion actually turn the tides? Or would it swallow her whole? Standing at this precipice, with doubts circling like vultures, she knew one thing. The moment she dared to speak would shift everything. She felt the electricity in the air. Either the community would embrace her, or they wouldn't. She wasn't sure which one terrified her more. The question hung heavy, an emotional cliffhanger, paralyzing yet invigorating. Would she break the chains of expectation, or remain shackled forever? A week had passed since Kelly first laid eyes on the library, and a sense of urgency gnawed at her heart with every tick of the clock at the diner. The once distant echoes of hope now clashed with the sharpened clarity of fear. What if she failed? The weight of that question pressed against her chest, making it difficult to breathe. In the quiet moments between customers, she began to draft a speech for the town meeting, her fingers trembling over the faded notebook that had become her refuge. Each word she penned felt like a small act of defiance against the whispers of doubt. A community library can transform lives, she started, imagining the possibility of igniting a love for learning in children. Each line breathed new life into her dwindling resolve. But visions of her mother's disapproving expressions came rushing back. Focus on stability, Kelly. The opposing forces of familial loyalty and personal ambition clashed within her like a fierce storm. She felt torn between the safety net of a stable life and the desire to carve out a more meaningful path. Did she owe it to her mother to follow the familiar route, or could she risk everything for a shot at happiness? Every day at the diner blended into the next, a monotonous rhythm that felt increasingly suffocating. Her colleagues shared laughter over coffee, but the sound felt distant to Kelly as she battled with herself, weighing her choices. One afternoon, as she served a regular customer, an idea struck her. What if she reached out to others who might share her vision? Surely, others believed in the transformative power of a library, even if the authorities didn't. With newfound determination, she began to talk to her customers about the library. Have you ever thought about how crucial a library is for our kids? She would ask, her voice hesitant at first but gaining strength with each conversation. Surprisingly, most responses were warm, echoing her emotions. These conversations lit a spark within her, revealing an unexpected allyship among the townspeople who also craved a place of learning and connection. Yet, with every supportive word, she found herself grappling with her own insecurities. The vision she was painting felt grandiose compared to the reality she was ensnared in. Could a waitress really lead such an initiative? As the time for the town meeting approached, she found herself battling the tiresome refrain of self-doubt. The moment of truth loomed close. Would she prioritize the safety of her current life over the pursuit of her dreams? Feeling trapped in her thoughts, Kelly decided to take a detour after work one evening. As she wandered a quiet path that led to the library, she inhaled the scents of fresh grass and blooming flowers, attempting to banish her fears. She approached the library's entrance, touched the wooden door gently, and closed her eyes. Memories flooded back, dusty volumes filled with laughter and adventure, the thrill of discovery. With her heart racing, she made a silent vow to herself. She would attend the meeting, no longer paralyzed by fear. This library was more than a building. It represented a bridge to the future she yearned for, one that would not only involve her dreams but also include her children. As she walked back to her car, determination surged through her. She would not cower in the shadows of others' expectations anymore. And yet, deep down, she wondered about the consequences of her choices. Would her pursuit of this dream fracture the very bonds she sought to protect? As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting shadows that mirrored her doubt, Kelly was left with her heart racing. Was she doing the right thing, or had she ventured too far into the unknown? The meeting was approaching rapidly, and it would demand everything she had. Would she find the courage to stand up and share her vision, or would she allow fear to silence her again? The hour of the town meeting arrived, and Kelly stood outside the dilapidated town hall, her heart thudding like a drum trapped in a cage. She spent the entire day plotting her approach, reluctant to relinquish the safety of her waitress apron for a role that felt foreign: activist, leader, changemaker. As she gazed through the window, the buzz of chatter and the buzz of projectors illuminated the faces of community members seated in anticipation. It was now or never. Her hands trembled as she clutched her notebook, the words meticulously crafted during countless late-night sessions. Each line was a testament to her struggle and resolve. But now, that sense of urgency that had fueled her creativity transformed into dread. The question had shifted. No longer just what if I fail, but what if they laugh? She shook her head, trying to dispel the invasion of negative thoughts. Taking a deep breath, she found herself drawing in the warm scent of coffee wafting from inside. It momentarily grounded her. She imagined the children she wanted to inspire, the laughter in halls filled with learning, and a spark ignited within her. When she decided she would step inside not just as Kelly the waitress, but as Kelly the dreamer. As she entered, a wave of voices crashed against her like the tide against a cliff. Overhead lights flickered with life, illuminating the makeshift podium in front. The sight sent her stomach into knots. Fear and resolve warred for dominance. Finding a seat near the back, she forced herself to sit still, each oscillating pulse of anxiety urging her to stand up and speak. The meeting unfolded with a familiar rhythm, routine business discussions and mundane updates. Kelly felt her courage begin to drain away like sand through an hourglass. Minutes dragged into what felt like hours. Then, a sudden call for new ideas echoed in the air, piercing her fog of uncertainty. Does anyone have any community initiatives to propose? The question loomed, and she felt the weight of silence pressing down on her. In that moment, every pair of eyes turned towards her. A jolt of adrenaline surged within her. It was now or never. She started, her voice barely above a whisper. But as she sensed their gaze, something inside her shifted. She rose, forcing her trembling legs to carry her forward, gripping the podium with fierce determination. I believe we need a library. Her voice rang out stronger than she anticipated. A place where our children can read, learn, and dream. As she spoke, the words bloomed with each breath she took, transforming into a vivid narrative filled with passion and urgency. She shared her vision of not just books piled high in a building, but a sanctuary of knowledge where stories could inspire a future generation. A few murmurs of agreement punctuated her speech. The more she spoke, the more alive she felt. She recounted personal stories of her childhood, how a library had once been her escape, her sanctuary, and her spark of creativity. Her voice grew firmer, fueled by an unfamiliar force as she shed the layers of doubt and insecurity. However, she couldn't overlook the skeptical expressions in the room. Faces mingled with hope, yet others were steeped in disbelief. Really, a waitress thinks she can lead this idea? Slipped from the back a voice cloaked in sarcasm. The jab landed like a blow, sending Kelly's mind racing. Churning doubts bubbled back to the surface, threatening to choke her burgeoning confidence. But a thought emerged. What if this was her moment, the very transformation she had been yearning for? What if the derision was simply a stepping stone on the path to empowerment? Fueled by the resilience she had cultivated during those hard conversations at the diner, she narrowed her focus, turning the sting of their skepticism into fuel for her fire. With determination rippling through her, Kelly took a breath and leaned into her convictions. Yes, a waitress can lead this initiative. I believe in the transformative power of knowledge and community. Who among us has never felt the thrill of turning a page? As resonant silence followed her question, she felt a shift. There were possibilities now. The seeds of her ideas were beginning to take root. But was this enough? Would her passion translate into acceptance and action? Or would she find herself fighting against the same old oppressive tides she had always known? The tension in the air thickened as she stood, waiting for a response that could change everything. The silence stretched out, taut like a bowstring, and Kelly contemplated that moment. Standing in front of an audience that could either bolster her dreams or crush them, her heart raced, and the air felt heavy with expectation. She could sense the weight of skeptical eyes, but for the first time, she also felt that tiny spark of determination flicker deep within her, urging her forward. Then, a man in the front row interrupted, his tone disapproving. What would you know about running a library? You serve coffee, not community projects. Laughter erupted from a group nearby, and her gut churned. Kelly could feel the warmth of embarrassment creeping into her cheeks. But beneath the embarrassment, something visceral ignited. She wasn't just a waitress. She was Kelly, a woman who had endured years of doubt and ridicule, who had spent nights dreaming of change. The laughter felt like the clang of a bell, summoning her to action. Let me tell you something, she replied, her voice steadier now, growing stronger with each word. Books saved me, and I know I'm not alone in that. She could vividly recall the curative properties of escaping into stories, of charismatic characters leaping off the pages and guiding her through tough times. I've spent more hours behind this town's coffee counter than I can count, she continued, emboldened by her own reflections. I've listened to stories from each of you of hardship, hope, and resilience. This library isn't just about borrowing books. It's a testament to our collective future, a chance to shape it through understanding. I am a waitress, yes, but I also have a vision that's grounded in the lives we live daily. A new wave of murmurs filled the room, some in agreement, some unsure. But Kelly caught the glimmers of connection forming in their expressions, the slight nods among those who were beginning to resonate with her message. Driven by an impulse she hadn't anticipated, Kelly pressed on, her voice gaining a melodic tone. Imagine a space full of possibilities, a reading nook for children, workshops for adults, somewhere everyone can gather to exchange ideas. This doesn't exist yet, and it should. If I can believe in that dream, then I need you to believe with me. Let's turn skepticism into possibility. Slowly, a few hands began to clap. It wasn't thunderous applause, but it was more than she hoped for. Yet nestled under that encouragement lay a sliver of doubt. Could she really convert this initiative from dream to reality? It was one thing to inspire hope. It was another to confront logistical hurdles, funding, and most daunting of all, her own self-doubt. Suddenly, the mayor, who had spent the evening listening quietly, stood up. There's merit to your idea, Kelly. Libraries have always been the backbone of communities. But how do you plan to make this happen? That one question struck Kelly like a bolt. It soothed her rising nerves yet reminded her of her precarious position. I'll gather support, start a committee, work on fundraising. The passion I feel for this is real, and I will work tirelessly to make it happen. But I need your support. I can't do this alone. As her bid hung in the air, she couldn't ignore the undercurrent of fear threading through her resolve. What if she failed? What if they didn't want to support a mere waitress with lofty dreams? But wasn't this the crucible of change? She had to let her passion give rise to action, each stirring moment more defining than the last. The mayor nodded thoughtfully, and then the room buzzed with discussion. Whispers became louder, ideas exchanged, and for the first time, she felt the true essence of collaboration, not merely within a community, but the forging of her identity as a leader. But as the meeting began to settle into a debate about her initiative, Kelly knew this was only the beginning. Would she be able to rally enough support to see her library project through? More uncertainties loomed on the horizon, and as conversations swirled around her, a heavy realization tugged at her conscience. This wasn't just about building a library. It was about building herself into a force willing to confront adversity. Would she rise to the occasion, or would fear pull her back into the shadows she was determined to escape? The next steps awaited as she faced the dawning prospect of her transformation. In the days that followed the meeting, Kelly immersed herself in an array of tasks that felt simultaneously invigorating and daunting. Each morning started early, the sun barely peeking over the horizon, casting golden rays that aligned perfectly with her aspiration to create something meaningful. Yet, amidst the bright mornings lay a turbulent inner dialogue fraught with questions. Am I really capable of this? Is my dream worth pursuing? At the coffee shop, the comforting scent of roasted beans wrapped around her like an old blanket, grounding her in a sense of familiarity. But that very comfort soon morphed into a nagging reminder of her self-doubt. As patrons sipped their lattes, she watched their faces, hoping to find courage in their indifference about her own ambitions. Struck by flashes of introspection, she often thought of the man who had mocked her in the meeting. His skepticism stung, yet it had become her unlikely fuel, pushing her to reconsider her past and redefine her narrative. In quiet moments behind the counter, she recalled her childhood, days spent in cozy libraries teeming with life. Those snapshots of her younger self lost in fantasy worlds and human tales ignited a sense of belonging she longed to replicate. I've lived stories, she mused. Now it was time to help others find theirs. As the week progressed, the mayor's question echoed in her mind, morphing into a motivating call to action. Kelly began drafting a plan, detailing how she envisioned not only a library but a community nucleus that thrived on connection and growth. Her commitment to showing up for the people, to championing their tales as much as her own, grew palpable. Each bullet point she scribbled, though daunting, felt like a bridge over treacherous waters she was willing to cross. Then came the moment that changed everything. One seemingly ordinary afternoon, an elderly woman, Mrs. Hawthorne, came into the cafe. She was a regular but mostly kept to herself. Today, however, she lingered, studying Kelly with a serious gaze. "I overheard your presentation. I hope you know how important what you're trying to do is," Mrs. Hawthorne said, her voice resonating with a wisdom that made Kelly sit a little straighter. "Libraries aren't just buildings. They are places where hope can be born." Kelly was taken aback. "Thank you," she replied, searching for the right words to express her appreciation. "But I'm afraid it's too big for me. Our world isn't changed by the mighty alone, my dear. It's often changed by those daring enough to dream. You have to reach out, find your allies," Mrs. Hawthorne urged. Just then, everything shifted. Those words, more than any praise or acknowledgement, ignited something deep in Kelly. This was it, the concept of collaboration. The idea that her dream was not merely about her, but about engaging others, creating a tapestry of shared stories, struggles, and victories. In that epiphany, she set out to organize a gathering, her first step towards mobilization. The thought excited her almost to the point of trembling. What would she say? Would anyone show up? The balance between hope and fear tightened around her once more. Yet she knew she couldn't waver now. This was about claiming her narrative and inviting others to join. As the community meeting date approached, anxiety surged in equal measure with excitement. Doubts threatened to overtake her confidence again. What if no one cared? What if they dismissed her once more? But something had shifted inside her. Now she saw the potential within her. Fear could propel her forward rather than holding her back. All she had to do was harness it, transform that anxiety into the energy fueling her passion. The night of the gathering, a palpable tension enveloped the meeting space. Kelly stood at the front, heart pounding, ready to share the vision that had taken root in her mind. Would this be her moment of truth? As she gazed out at the gathering crowd, her internal voice wrestled with uncertainty and hope, bridging the gap between who she was and who she wanted to become. What awaited her might either mark an empowering milestone in her journey or force her to confront the deepest shadows of her self-worth. But for the first time, the thought of failure didn't terrify her. It crystallized into a possibility, an opportunity for growth. Only time would reveal whether she could carry this moment forward or if fear still had more sway over her life than she realized. She took a deep breath, ready to step into the heart of change, knowing that the real test was just beginning. What lay beyond that moment was unknown, but she was determined to find out. The air hung thick with anticipation as Kelly scanned the faces before her. She was acutely aware of the variations within the crowd, some filled with skepticism, others flickering with intrigue. This wasn't simply about reciting her plan. This was about revealing her very essence. Would they see the value in what she envisioned, or would her convictions crumble under scrutiny? As she stepped forward, the familiar flutter of anxiety invaded her stomach. Though there was something different this time. It wasn't paralyzing. It was invigorating, a reminder of the stakes involved. With each deliberate breath, she anchored her gaze on a small group at the front, their attentive expressions urging her forward. "Thank you all for coming tonight," she began, her voice steadier than she felt. "I'm thrilled to share something that's very close to my heart." She paused, allowing the weight of her words to sink in. It's about not just having a library but creating a place where stories can thrive, where our experiences can inspire connection. Kelly could see some heads nodding. It fueled her determination. "I've spent most of my life surrounded by books, immersed in worlds both grand and intimate, but I realized that knowledge alone doesn't suffice. We need a space that encourages conversation, creativity, and community." The room felt like it breathed with her. The tension shifted from nerves to curiosity. Could she turn her fear into something constructive? This new fear of being misunderstood surfaced, yet it was flanked by a growing resolve. She pressed on, eyes blazing. "Together, we can not only share our own narratives, but uplift those that might be lost in the noise of everyday life. No one should have to feel that their story isn't worth sharing." The silence that followed was palpable, yet it was not devoid of hope. She continued, weaving her thoughts into a cohesive tapestry of aspiration and practicality, detailing how each person could contribute. This isn't merely about constructing physical walls. It's about building a community rooted in trust and shared dreams. But as she spoke, a nagging tension arose within her. The man from the meeting flashed through her mind. Hadn't he dismissed her? Here she was, standing against the ghost of his doubt. But that was the key, she wasn't just confronting him. She was confronting the very image of self-doubt he represented. Even if just one person resonates with this vision, it's worth it, she affirmed, her heart racing as she tempered her emotions. But I need you. Your stories are powerful, and I want to help you share them. Together we can create something unforgettable. At last, she looked up and made eye contact with Mrs. Hawthorne, whose approving smile anchored Kelly's confidence. Her voice punctured the lingering doubt, you can't do this alone, and you don't have to. Every voice matters. The meeting flowed into discussion, ideas bouncing around like ping-pong balls, igniting a momentum she hadn't anticipated. Each interaction revealed connections she hadn't noticed before. Someone had experience in grant writing. Another owned a local business that could help financially. Their conversations blossomed, each exchange a brick being laid in the foundation of something new. As the meeting wrapped up, a sense of elation filled Kelly, but it was tinted with unease. What if the excitement fizzled away once the adrenaline wore off? Could she maintain this connection, ensure they followed through together? Those questions nested within her as she bid everyone farewell. Determination coursed through her veins, mingling with uncertainty. This was not just the beginning of her journey, it was the genesis of a shared narrative that could become larger than herself. Wrapping up, she noticed several attendees lingering, already brainstorming ideas and formulating plans. Although a part of her wanted to laugh with joy, another part wrestled with the fear of insurmountable expectations. In that duality, she realized the pivotal truth. Leadership wasn't solely about steering the ship but also learning how to harness the current of collective ambition. Yet, in the shadow of this revelation loomed the question that echoed louder as she drove home. Could she genuinely sustain not only her vision but also the trust of others who dared to dream alongside her? There was clarity in knowing she could reach out for support, yet the impending thought lingered, how much could her tenacity be tested before it broke? As the night deepened, so did her resolve. If she could withstand this pressure, perhaps it would lead her to unveil the incredible truth hidden within her. The strength to build, rather than merely dream. The journey ahead was uncertain, yet she grasped the steering wheel firmly, urging herself forward into the unknown where growth awaited. As dawn broke, Kelly wrestled with the early sunlight cutting through her bedroom window. Sleep had eluded her. She tossed in bed, besieged by the anticipation of the day ahead. A surge of adrenaline pulsed in her chest, feeding her resolve but also the lingering doubts that had nested there since last night's meeting. What was Keely if not the sum of her actions? Each choice would either build her vision or break it apart, like scattered puzzle pieces across a table. The scattered thoughts mixed with excitement over the potential of collaboration and the paralyzing fear of failing those who had taken the leap to believe in her. Fueled by a newfound sense of responsibility, she set to work. The proposal she had briefly touched upon in her presentation required a structured plan. She couldn't just rely on enthusiasm. As she crafted a document outlining specific steps for moving forward, she felt each word solidifying her grip on this endeavor. There was clarity in breaking her vision into manageable parts, and with each distinct section, she could visualize how to keep the momentum alive. Kelly considered the mix of contributors she had gathered at the meeting. How could she nurture those connections? She scribbled notes about their skills, imagining a network tied not just by shared goals but by the stories they carried. God, if she could ignite that spark of passion in others, how could they not leap alongside her? Midway through writing, her phone buzzed with a message from James, the local business owner. The note was simple but uplifting. He was eager to discuss ideas and potential support for her project. Her heart swelled. Sending a quick reply, she felt a flicker of hope bathe over her like warm sunlight. She could harness not stifled but transformed into an experience that revealed truths she had yet to uncover. As she hit send, the words echoed within her. Let us dig deeper together. That simple line felt as though it reshaped the very framework of her endeavor. But as the night settled in, a nagging thought lingered in her mind. What if the deeper she unearthed herself, the more painful her discoveries might be? What hidden shadows could surface in the process of opening up? The road was widening, but its twists remained obscured, leaving her teetering on the edge of potential revelation. Sleep was still elusive as Kelly woke up the next morning, her mind spinning with thoughts of the meeting she had scheduled for later that day. The message she had sent last night felt like a solid step forward, but the truth loomed like a dark cloud. She was still unearthing her own reality. What if digging deeper only led her to places she wasn't ready to confront? The sun peeked through the curtains, coaxing her into the day. Sitting at her kitchen table with fresh coffee in hand, she opened her laptop. As fragments of her vision spiraled in and out of focus, she wrestled with how to transform vague ideas into something palpable. Each coffee stain on her notebook became a reminder of the imbalance between her ambitions and her reality. She was staring at a crossroads, but which path would lead her to authenticity? She contemplated the blend of individuals she wanted to invite back for the meeting, trying to craft an authentic dialogue that would vibe with their stories. Yet, in her mind flitted the reflection of James' piercing gaze. What stories are worth telling? Echoed in her thoughts. Just as she finished that thought, her phone buzzed again. It was a reminder of the meeting's location and time. Dread bubbled within her. Could she nurture these connections? Could she handle the vulnerabilities that came with exposing her truth? She took a breath, gazing out the window. The sky was blue, bright with limitless potential, yet her heart felt heavy. As she prepared to leave, she devised pockets of strategies she could employ during the discussion. What if she posed a thought-provoking question that could elicit genuine engagement? Instead of running through a rigid agenda, she could create an open-ended conversation. She scribbled variations of questions like, "What inspires you?" and "How can we be catalysts for change?" With each line she wrote, a small sense of control seeped through her nervousness. Kelly forced a smile at her reflection, convincing herself that she had the capability to guide this gathering towards something meaningful. But as soon as she locked the door behind her, the external world clawed at her resolve. Doubt whispered in her ear as she drove toward the venue. What if these conversations only led her astray? What if the stories shared were a mirror of her own inadequacies, reflecting back fears she was trying to avoid? Each passing car felt like a challenge to her capabilities. Arriving at the cafe filled her with eagerness, but stepping inside brought an overwhelming sense of vulnerability. She could see those who had shown interest, and they looked expectant. Each face held potential connections, but also the weight of her inner turmoil. She stood at the threshold for what felt like an eternity, adrenaline pulsing through her veins. Finally, stepping forward, she caught snippets of their conversations and saw the laughter that intertwined with the discussions. It reinforced her longing to create something overflowing with warmth and stories. She settled into her chosen spot and allowed herself a calming inhale. "Thank you all for coming," she started, her voice trembling slightly initially. "I honestly believe we have something special here, but we must dig deeper to explore not just what we can create together, but who we are in the process." As the discussions unfolded, with everyone chipping in their ideas and personal experiences, Kelly felt tinges of empowerment rooting themselves within her. She was no longer just an architect of a plan. She was a storyteller, weaving threads among disparate lives under one shared eagerness to understand. But as laughter resonated and stories surfaced, a deeper, uncomfortable truth emerged. Could her personal narrative engage these individuals on a level deeper than surface connections? Would they be there to help her share her story? Or was she destined to face these vulnerabilities alone once more? The realization slashed through her enthusiasm. Was she ready to share more of her authenticity? To let them see the parts of herself that still trembled under the weight of fear? As the room filled with soaring ideas, she braced herself for the leap into what was fast becoming an electric atmosphere of communion. And yet, as they shared ideas, a shadow curled inside her. What if the very stories she sought to embrace were tangled with insecurities that she had buried far too deep? Would the unfolding camaraderie reveal the cracks in her own preparedness, leaving her exposed and vulnerable in a way she never anticipated? Feeling the weight of that thought, she leaned in, ready to explore beyond the surface, and her heart quickened with the question that now simmered in the air. Could she emerge stronger from this shared vulnerability, or would the risks send her crashing back into isolation? Kelly felt the warmth of connection in the room, yet it was countered by the frigid chill of her own self-doubt. As others shared their experiences, she marveled at their ease, the way vulnerability rolled off their tongues like second nature. With every laugh and nod, she felt both uplifted and squashed under the weight of comparing herself to them. Deep down, she fought against the impulse to pull back and cloak herself in the familiar safety of silence. Each story wove a deeper fabric of community, yet a thread tethered her to her insecurities. What if she could never measure up? What if she revealed her own narrative, only to find it lacking? Determination bubbled within, clashing violently with doubt as she glanced around the group, seeking an opening to contribute something raw and revealing. Sharing our dreams is a process, she began, a steadiness carving its way into her voice. For me, it's about conquering this incessant fear of rejection. I often feel like stepping into the light might bring too much attention to my flaws. She braved a glance at those seated around her. Intrigued expressions met her own, prompting the flicker of courage within her to ignite just a bit further. James's curious gaze made her heart stutter. He had an uncanny ability to make her feel seen, as if he understood the complex mosaic of her emotions. As she laid bare her hesitations, others began to reflect their experiences, echoing similar sentiments. Each shared fear tethered them more deeply, knitting a fragile network of empathy. There was something about being surrounded by understanding that began to loosen the knots in her chest. Perhaps revealing her truth wouldn't be the end, but the beginning of newfound connections. As the conversation danced back and forth, the room's tone transformed. Each person who spoke unveiled parts of themselves, creating a tapestry woven with personal aspirations and hidden traumas. In their openness, Kelly found fragments of her own reflection. They were crafters of their realities just like her. The discussion took a turn toward aspirations, and the atmosphere shifted to one of ambition. "I want to launch my own cafe," one participant confessed, eyes alight with dreams. Others jumped in with their own endeavors. As they allowed their hopes to rise, Kelly felt a flicker of jealousy, a reminder that she had once been undaunted, fueled by ambition rather than encumbered by it. When was the last time she had let her own desires shimmer in front of anyone? With a surge of resolve, she decided to share her vision, a bold ambition to combine storytelling and community engagement. "I've always dreamed of creating a platform where stories can be shared, not just told. A place where we can cultivate not just our talents, but also nurture each other's aspirations." Quickened breaths rippled through the crowd, and for a brief moment, she felt suspended in time. Would they embrace her vision, or would they dismiss it as another fleeting thought? The tension in her core tightened while hope brushed against her skin like static. Unexpected support poured in from unexpected places, each person's words bolstering her vision. Their excitement ignited something deep inside her, revealing a glimmer of strength she thought was buried forever. But an undercurrent of anxiety tangibly threaded through the air. What if they saw through the facade of confidence she was trying to project? What if they recognized her fear? Would sharing resurrect that terrifying solitude she had just begun to escape? As the discussions continued, Kelly felt the walls closing in on her hopes and dreams, but this time, she sensed the possibility of breaking through that barrier. And just as she was starting to believe she could thrive among them, an uninvited shadow crashed the room. The door swung open, revealing a figure Kelly never expected to see. James stood at the threshold, an unreadable expression on his face. The air froze, and all eyes shifted to him. Could he understand all that she had just fought to reveal? Would his presence unravel the tentative progress she had made? The room held its breath, and with that charged moment of silence, the lines were about to be drawn, threatening to redefine everything she had so recently come to embrace. In the days that followed the tumultuous meeting, Kelly felt a palpable shift in her perspective, one that transformed not only her dream but her very identity. The project, once encapsulated by a well-meaning whim, now crystallized into a fervent mission both to herself and to the community. With renewed vigor and purpose, she immersed herself in the dynamics of leadership and vision. The first major milestone was rallying her newfound allies, each eager to bring their skills to the table. She organized brainstorming sessions, drawing on the collective intelligence of the group to refine the library initiative. The sense of communion resonated with Kelly deeply. She no longer felt like the sole bearer of her dream, but a catalyst for a community awakening. As ideas flowed like a rush of vibrant colors splashed onto a canvas, she watched her vision take on a life of its own. On a bright Saturday morning, they held the first planning workshop at the diner. Crowding around worn tables, the scent of freshly brewed coffee mingled with palpable excitement as everyone shared their aspirations. Each person contributing unique skills from organizing events to grant writing infused a sense of purpose that lightened Kelly's heart. She wasn't just building a library. She was cultivating a bustling hub of creativity and knowledge. Months passed, and their project began to take shape. Kelly stood at the helm, her confidence now anchored by her role as a visionary. The once dilapidated library transformed into a beacon of hope, its walls resonating with the dreamers who had come together to share their stories. Recognition flowed in various forms. A local newspaper featured her initiative, crediting her as a driving force for community development. It was validation, but more importantly, it represented a collective triumph. During a community event where they showcased the library's success, Kelly found herself surrounded by familiar faces. Each person was a vital thread in the fabric of her quest. Those who once whispered doubts now stood firm in their encouragement. Embraced by a chorus of heartfelt sentiments, she felt the years of self-doubt unravel before her, replaced by palpable pride in what they had all built together. As the sun began to set, casting golden rays across the newly refurbished space, Kelly stood up for what she realized was an important declaration. The audience grew still. This was her moment to step fully into her truth, not just as a community leader, but as a woman transformed. "Thank you for believing in this dream," she began, her voice steady. "Together, we have created something more than just a library. We've birthed a community that understands storytelling isn't confined to books. It lives in all of us." She shared her journey, the hurdles faced, and the skepticism she overcame, feeling the warmth of each supportive gaze. "No longer do I see myself solely as Kelly the waitress," she proclaimed, "but as Kelly the leader, empowered by each of you. I have grown not only in my capacity to dream, but in my understanding of the bonds we forged through shared narratives." The standing ovation that followed wasn't just applause. It represented her metamorphosis. The walls she once felt were suffocating now felt like pillars of support, built from their collective journey. Yet, as thoughtful silence enveloped the room, she felt the moment's weight, the realization that this journey had catalyzed a profound change within her. She was standing at the intersection of accomplishment and purpose, where her personal achievements echoed the aspirations of her community. In the days following the unveiling, Kelly received invitations to speak at local schools and community events, sharing her experiences to inspire others to follow their own paths. Once merely a waitress at a diner, she had risen to become a recognized figure who catalyzed change. Her narrative evolved from one of doubt to one of empowerment, deeply understood in the hearts of those witnessing her journey. In this final moment of reflection, it crystallized for Kelly. This was more than the library. It was a testament to the power of resilience, a personal achievement born through confrontation of fears and acceptance of self-worth. She had conquered the chains of expectation that once confined her, emerging not just as a dreamer but as a leader who forged connections through the stories of many. Thus, she ventured boldly into the future, equipped with the undeniable truth: it is not the titles we bear or the circumstances we are birthed into that define us. It is how we embrace our unique dreams and the courage we summon to realize them that shapes our legacy. You need to subscribe now to ensure you're part of this journey toward transformation. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and bring these stories to life. Comment below with your reactions or theories about this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this powerful resolution.